So Dianne Feinstein is about 178 years old. She has been in Washington, D.C. since 1894, and she makes Joe Biden look like a spring chicken. There are stories that are extremely disturbing and troubling of like her quite literally openly going through stages of dementia in front of her colleagues. Like there are times where she's in front of somebody who she's known for years. She doesn't even remember who it is. She doesn't remember basic facts about herself. It's bad. Okay. And this is, look, we've seen this before. There's so many, what was his name? Robert Byrd, I think he was. He was same situation. He basically, you know, should have been, he was like on his deathbed, but he was still being wheeled out into Congress to cast votes. So it's a sad scenario. Well, Dianne Feinstein is considering maybe she can run again. I don't think anybody really has the answer. It's like a 50-50 type thing. People are, you know, split on whether or not she's going to do it. But I mean, Chuck Grassley, he's also, you know, 312 years old and he's still there. He's still kicking. I'm sure he's not as sharp as he once was. Well, there's a progressive populist firebrand who decided, I'm not going to sit around and wait for my turn. I'm not going to wait to see what Dianne Feinstein does. You know what? I'm going for it. And so Katie Porter has now jumped into the race. She's announced a primary. So she says California needs a warrior in the Senate to stand up to special interests, fight the dangerous imbalance in our economy, and hold so-called leaders like Mitch McConnell accountable for rigging our democracy. Today, I'm proud to announce my candidacy for the U.S. Senate in 2024. So I'm going to play you her video here, and then we're going to go through her record and see, you know, if this is a good idea or not for her to run.
We're living through a time of extraordinary change. I'm Katie Porter. Change can be electrifying and exhilarating, but change can also be disruptive, like the constant assault on our democracy and the dangerous imbalance in our economy. The threat from so-called leaders like Mitch McConnell has too often made the United States Senate the place where rights get revoked, special interests get rewarded, and our democracy gets rigged. Especially in times like these, California needs a warrior in Washington. And that's exactly why I'm announcing my candidacy for the United States Senate in 2024. I don't do Congress the way others often do. I use whatever power I have to speak hard truths to the powers that be, to not just challenge the status quo, but call it out, name names, and demand justice. That goes for taking on Wall Street and the big banks, big oil, and Big Pharma. It's why I refuse to accept corporate PAC and lobbyist campaign money. I don't want it. And I'm leading the fight to ban congressional stock trading because it's just wrong. To win these fights, it's time for new leadership in the U.S. Senate. If you agree, please go to katieporter.com and join my campaign for the U.S. Senate today. Thank you for caring about the California we can build together.
So what is Katie Porter, like what has she done since she's been in Washington, D.C.? Well, here are some of the things. She got lower prescription drug prices. So she was the one who was fighting. She's the one who proposed her own bill on lowering prescription drug prices. She wanted to lower all prescription drug prices. Of course, you remember it was Kyrsten Sinema in the Senate who killed that from making it into, the final version of the Inflation Reduction Act. But we did get lower prescription drug prices for seniors, and it was unfortunately just specific drugs. It wasn't all drugs. But she was the one who sort of led the charge on that, and she got a bill through the House which lowered prescription drug prices. She was behind this anti-price gouging bill for big oil. This was at the peak of gas prices, and this is something that got through the House. But of course, I think literally every Republican voted against it, and it died in the Senate. She boosted pay and benefits for federal firefighters. She passed the Student Mental Health Rights Act. She closed this insurance company loophole that denied mental health care to firefighters, police, public school workers, and city and state workers. So that's some of the stuff that she's done. Now, the other thing that she's really well known for is in these committee hearings, she really, really grills some of the worst people in the country. CEOs, owners, criminals. So I wanted to show you some of this here. First, we have a Big Pharma CEO who, of course, is price gouging. And Katie has some stuff to ask about that.
Mr. Ollis, you were CEO of Celgene until fairly recently, and as my colleague Ms. Presley established, Celgene makes Revlimid, a cancer drug. Do you know what the price of Revlimid was when it first hit the market in 2005?
I don't remember the number, but it was
Reclaiming my
200 or...
Reclaiming my time. It was $215 for one pill. Do you know what the price of Revlimid was in 2013?
I can look it up, but I don't recall. I don't have it in front of me.
$412 per pill. How about the price? Let's get into more recent where your memory may be jogged. How about 2017?
I would say approximately $700 a pill, but I don't have it in front of me.
$719 per pill. And today, Revlimid costs $763 per pill. I'm curious, did the drug get substantially more effective in that time? Did cancer patients need fewer pills?
During that time, the development of Revlimid included 6 additional indications, some in lymphoma, and the balance in patients with different segments.
Oh, great. I want to, reclaiming my time. So, Mr. Ellis, you discovered more patients who might benefit from paying $763 a pill, but being able to use a drug for more patients doesn't necessarily more price. Did the drug start to work faster? Were there fewer side effects? How did you change the formula or production of Revlimid to justify this price increase?
The indication changes are for subsets of different patients with disease.
Reclaiming my time, Mr. Ellis, I understand that. What I'm trying to understand from you is how did the drug improve? If I were to look at a pill and analyze it from 2005 when it cost $215 and I was looked today at when it cost $763, would that pill be the same?
I understand your question about the pill. The manufacturing for it would be the same.
Great, thank you. So to put that in perspective, you hiked the price by $500 when the average Orange County senior only has $528 left in their bank account after they've paid their basic monthly expenses. The average Orange County senior can't even afford one pill. And you said recently that nobody pays the list price, but that is not correct. Do uninsured patients sometimes pay the list price?
I can imagine there are circumstances where underinsured or uninsured patients would be paying close to or at the list price. I don't know of any specific circumstances, but
reclaiming my time, Mr. Ellis, I want to turn to one other number if you would help me. Do you know what this number is? Does it ring any bells?
I think you're referring to my compensation in some way.
Yeah, well, in some way. This was your compensation in 2017 for being CEO of Celgene. And that's a lot of money. It's 200 times the average American's income and 360 times what the average senior gets on Social Security. Now, of that 13 million, about 2.1 million came from your company hitting yearly earning targets. And more than half of the bonus formula was based on those targets. Any increase in the price of Revlimid would also increase your bonus by increasing earnings. Isn't that right, Mr. Ellis?
If revenues increased and expenses did not, then earnings would be enhanced.
Thank you. Mr. Ellis, in fact, the Oversight Committee found that if you hadn't increased the price of Revlimid, you wouldn't have gotten your bonus. Mr. Ellis, do you know how much you personally received in bonuses over 2 years, the last 2 years, just because Celgene raised the price of this one drug, Revlimid?
I receive very generous compensation, but I don't know the exact number that you're referring to.
In fact, you personally received $500,000 personally just by tripling the price of Revlimid. So,
I mean, what is there to say? What is there to say about this? Now, remember, oftentimes with these like hearings where they grill people, sometimes it's just all performative. It's all political theater. So you look at it and it's like, okay, yeah, you got him, but like, what are you actually doing about this? But in the case of Katie Porter, she actually did something about it. She's the one who proposed the bill to lower prescription drug prices. It got through the House. And again, if it wasn't for one senator, Kyrsten Sinema, we'd have lower prescription drug prices for all Americans. But even Joe Manchin, I don't know if you guys remember this. There was a story where Joe Manchin was going after Kyrsten Sinema because Kyrsten Sinema, specifically one of the special interests she sold out to was Big Pharma. She took like $1 million from them in the middle of the negotiations around Build Back Better. And so in the IRA, the only thing she conceded on was some lower prescription drug prices and only for seniors. If it wasn't for that one senator, we would have lower prescription drug prices for all Americans. Katie Porter led the charge on that. She was on the front lines. So this isn't all performative. This isn't all theater. She actually delivered in a concrete way. And you guys remember the horror stories. I mean, we covered it on this show. There was some story, I'm going to botch the numbers slightly here, but I'm going to be in the ballpark. There was a story we covered where there's this cancer drug that in the UK sells for about $200 or $300. And in the US, it went for over $35,000. What we're talking about here with Big Pharma is a criminal organization. So all of the advancements in medicine and technology over the past 2 decades when it comes to pharmaceutical drugs, it comes out of universities. It comes out of U.S. taxpayer grant money. So we fund the research and development. They create new medicine, and then for-profit pharmaceutical companies swoop in, buy up the patent rights, the intellectual property rights, and then sell it back to you and price gouge you. This is insane. We should just cut out that middleman. They're a mafia. They're a criminal organization. That is an outlet. Big Pharma is an outlet. It should be nationalized. It should be nationalized. There's no reason to have this shark in the middle price gouging us, making $13 million for what? For robbing Americans? And the answer is yes, for robbing Americans. I got more for you. So this is Katie Porter, grilling one of the top health officials in the country, and you're going to see the issue. It has to do with COVID testing. Watch.
Dr. Redfield, will you commit to the CDC right now using that existing authority to pay for diagnostic testing free to every American regardless of insurance?
Well, I can say that we're going to do everything to make sure everybody can get the care they need.
Reclaiming my time. Dr. Redfield, you have the existing authority. Will you commit right now to using the authority that you have vested in you under law that provides in a public health emergency for testing, treatment, exam, isolation without cost, yes or no?
What I'm going to say is I'm going to review it in detail with CDC and the department.
Reclaiming my time. Dr. Redfield, respectfully, I wrote you this letter along with my colleagues, Rosa DeLaura and Lauren Underwood, Congressman Underwood and Congressman DeLaura. We wrote you this letter 1 week ago. We quoted that existing authority to you, and we laid out this problem. We asked for a response yesterday. The deadline and the time for delay has passed. Will you commit to invoking your existing authority under 42 CFR 71.30 to provide for coronavirus testing for every American, regardless of insurance coverage?
What I was trying to say is that CDC is working with HHS now to see how we operationalize that.
Dr. Redfield, I hope that that answer weighs heavily on you, because it is going to weigh very heavily on me and on every American family.
Our intent is to make sure every American gets the care and treatment they need at this time of this major epidemic, and I'm currently working with HHS to see how to best operationalize it.
Dr. Redfield, you don't need to do any work to operationalize. You need to make a commitment to the American people so they come in to get tested. You can operationalize the payment structure tomorrow.
I think you're an excellent questioner, so my answer is yes.
Excellent. Everybody in America hear that. You are eligible to go get tested for coronavirus and have that covered regardless of insurance. Please, if you believe you have the illness, follow precautions. Call first. Do everything the CDC and Dr. Fauci, God bless you, for guiding Americans in this time.
Okay. Other than the praise of Dr. Fauci at the end there, that was awesome. Of course, Dr. Fauci has been wrong virtually every step of the way in the pandemic. He originally said, mask, you don't even need to wear a mask, bro. And then, so we don't need to get into the sins of Dr. Fauci, but suffice to say, he's not as good as liberals think he is, especially since he's been pushing for this gain-of-function research, which may have had a hand in creating the situation that we're in. But anyway, I digress from that. That from Katie Porter is spot on. Now, I love how, so what she's doing is she's asserting you already have the authority to do free testing. And she cites the exact statute or law where they do. And then she's like, so are you going to do it or not? And he's tap dancing around and he's like, no, are you going to do it or not? Now, remember, they ended up doing free coronavirus tests. Why? Guys, this is one of the rare instances where you can see the power of the media for the better. So what happened was Jen Psaki at the time, White House press spokesperson, she was questioned by a bunch of reporters, and the reporters were asking very simple questions like, hey, why can't we have free coronavirus tests? And Jen Psaki basically laughed them off and was like, really? How are we going to do that? You think that's so simple? And basically the reporters were like, yeah, other countries have already done this. And the Biden White House was so embarrassed over that moment, and the media was actually unified in saying we deserve the free coronavirus test, that the media forced their hand and they ended up doing it. And so it's nice to see that sometimes there are some politicians on the inside who view the situation the exact same way you and I do. Where Katie Porter was watching that like, what is wrong with these people? Yes, do the free coronavirus test. What are you, crazy? All right, so I got one more for you here. She's going to grill a billionaire CEO, Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan Chase. He's one of the worst. what she's doing here, she's taking a case of a real worker for JP Morgan Chase under Jamie Dimon. And she's going to do some math. Hey, this is how they live. What do you think of that? Watch this.
So where we left off was this woman had, and I apologize, you're going to need to follow orally. She had $2,425 a month. She rents a one-bedroom apartment. She and her daughter sleep together in the same room. In Irvine, California, that average one-bedroom apartment is going to be $1,600. She spends $100 on utilities. Take away the $1,700, and she has net $725. She's like me. She drives a 2008 minivan and has gas. $400 for car, expenses, and gas. Net $325. The Department of Agriculture says a low-cost food budget, that is ramen noodles, a low food budget is $400. That leaves her $77 in the red. She has a Cricket cell phone, the cheapest cell phone she can get for $40. She's in the red $117 a month. She has after-school childcare because the bank is open during normal business hours. That's $450 a month. That takes her down to negative $567 per month. My question for you, Mr. Dimon, is how should she manage this budget shortfall while she's working full-time at your bank?
I don't know that all your numbers are accurate. That number is generally a starter job?
She is a starting employee. She has a 6-year-old child.
Okay,
this is her first job.
And you can get those jobs at a high school, and she may have my job one day. So
she may, but Mr. Dimon, she doesn't have the ability right now to spend your $31 million.
I'm totally sympathetic.
She's short 567. What would you suggest she do?
I don't know. I'd have to think about that.
Would you recommend that she take out a JP Morgan Chase credit card and run a deficit?
I don't know. I'd have to think about it.
Would you recommend that she overdraft at your bank and be charged overdraft fees?
I don't know. I'd have to think about it.
So I know you have a lot
I'd love to call up and have a conversation about her financial affairs and see if we can be helpful.
See if you can find a way for her to live on less than the minimum that I've described.
Just be helpful.
Well, I appreciate your desire to be helpful, but what I'd like you to do is provide a way for families to make ends meet so that little kids who are 6 years old living in a one-bedroom apartment with their mother aren't going hungry at night because they're $567 short from feeding themselves, clothing them. We allow no money for clothing. We allow no money for school lunches. We allow no money for field trips, no money for medical, no money for prescription drugs, nothing. And she's short $567 already. Mr. Dimon, you know how to spend $31 million a year in salary, and you can't figure out how to make up a $567 a month shortfall. This is a budget problem you cannot solve.
Look at how weaselly he was. Go back and watch his answers. Watch how he sort of shuts down. Because these people are used to never being questioned on this at all. And they're also used to being bullshitters. And this is a situation where never been pushed on it, doesn't have a line of BS he can sell on it. And so he just sort of shuts down and looks like the con man he is. And the idea that if he paid his workers decent enough to live, that would JP Morgan wouldn't be able to function anymore, bro. That's comical. And again, a system like this has not justified its existence. You know what I mean? If the system is so terrible for such a large percentage of the population, then that system is a failed system. And so this was Katie Porter absolutely grilling him on it. So, look, I'm sure that she's let us down in the past if I go through her record with a fine-tooth comb, and I'm sure that in the future she'll let us down. But, when you compare her to most other politicians, she's a hell of a lot better. She's a hell of a lot better. She's fighting for the right things a large percentage of the time. And obviously, it goes without saying, right? Having her over somebody who's got 1.5 feet in the grave, that would be a step in the right direction. But the real question here is, hey, is Adam Schiff going to run? I definitely support Katie Porter over Adam Schiff. Is Ro Khanna going to run? Well, now you got a more difficult question, right? Because while I have many issues with both of them, Katie Porter's cool, Ro Khanna's cool. What do you do in a situation like that? I have to admit, I wouldn't like it. I think the left needs to sort of be more serious about how power works. And one of those things is understanding you got to have one and you got to unify around them. All this, oh, it's all about democracy, so give us as many choices as possible. Yeah, but if you have 3 or 4 decent lefties running, and then you have 1 D-bag or 2 D-bag establishment corporatists, who's going to do better? It's just a math question at that point, right? And it's going to be one of the establishment types. So we got to get serious about power. We got to work it out behind the scenes. There's got to be more solidarity and organization. But look, at least as of right now, her jumping in this race, yummy in our tummies. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.